Hello you cheeky beakies and thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to be talking about E3 and specifically I'm going to be talking about Bethesda and their introduction of the Creation Club. Now I wanted to do this video a little bit sooner. The reason why I haven't is because emotions have been very high. The World and his fucking mum has done a video about E3 and about mods as well. So I thought I'd give it a week, wait to see what kind of came out of the woodwork. Wait for opinions and emotions to kind of calm down and then do a video. So here I am. I'm going to talk a little bit about Creation Club and the mods that are going to be introduced, as well as the system that's going to be put in place, how it could work, and what the positives are, and also the negatives as well, and then kind of draw up a conclusion at the end. So that being said, for the benefit of anyone that has kind of been living under a rock or just didn't fucking catch what was going on last week, Bethesda took to the stage and they had their sort of media conference and they announced a couple of things. Nothing really amazing or nothing that people didn't really expect, but one of the things that they did announce that people kind of knew was coming one day but didn't expect to be announced in the way it was announced was the introduction to what is going to be called the Creation Club, which is Bethesda's in-house method or delivery method of bringing mods and paid mod-like DLC into Skyrim and into Fallout 4 and, you know, possibly and most definitely any kind of future Bethesda games that uses those engines. Now, the reason why this caused a bit of controversy is back in 2015, for anyone that didn't know or if you need reminding, Bethesda tried something very similar, albeit on Steam. So they worked with Valve, and then kind of overnight out of nowhere, they told everyone that mods were basically going to be paid for, and it wasn't going to include all mods, but people could have the option to do that, and it was starting basically now. People naturally kicked up a huge fucking stink because there were lots of issues with it. People had issues with paying for content that they previously were getting for free from the modding community. People also had a problem with the cut that the modders were getting as well. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think they were getting something like 30%, while Valve and Steam kind of took the other 70 between them. However which way that was split. There were lots of issues with it, and it was very quickly taken down within the same week, and Bethesda were kind of forced to issue a statement apologising for how it was delivered, but reiterating that they were going to try again one day. So we knew this was always on the cards, we knew it was going to come back about, and eventually 2 years later down the line at E3, they've announced it. So the Creation Club is going to be available on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, or fucking any one of their current iterations that are out or are going to be out, and also PC. Now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the pros and the cons about this, because I think it's a very interesting topic for debate and conversation. I think there's quite a few interesting things that could probably come out of it. So first up, I'm going to start with some pros. I think this one is very obvious, but behind all of these mods that we've downloaded previously from the Steam Workshop or from Nexus for free, countless hours, effort, time, resources, money, and talent has gone in to making a lot of these mods. I mean, we have mods that have basically introduced brand new areas with new story, new characters, new enemies, new weapons, and also has kind of amateur or semi-professional voice actors involved in the development process of them. Now, for a long time, we've been given these things for free with the option to donate to the creators. Now, hand on heart, myself personally, I've never actually donated for a mod that I've downloaded before, and I'm sure there are many people, even people out there that say that they have. The majority of people haven't. There are obviously some people that do, which is fantastic, but at the end of the day, it's not a given, and they do put a lot of time and effort into it. So from one side of it, is it fair to kind of not have a financial incentive that we have to give if we want to enjoy something that someone's created? And I think that's maybe one angle that we should have to look at it. We shouldn't naturally be entitled to these things for free, especially when someone has put so much time and effort and hard work into it as well. Now, the second thing that I think could be good from this is kind of closer communication and closer integration, if you like, with the modding community and Bethesda themselves. We've seen that they have done events in the past where they did kind of accumulate ideas together and then create DLC or items that have been added into their games as a result of those. And I think bringing in the modding community to work closely with Bethesda and bringing on extra talent and bringing in extra ideas could be a really, really fantastic idea. And I think that doing something like this may afford an opportunity that may have not been there before. I don't think it's necessarily something that has to be mutually exclusive to that. There are other ways they can do it and implement it. But I think this is definitely a very, very strong candidate for having that kind of close community and bringing those additional ideas in. Now, the third kind of good point kind of actually ties into my first point, which is by offering a paid incentive. Basically, it just attracts brand new talent to the modding and ultimately the development scene. If you're giving people financial incentives, it means that hopefully we're only going to see better mods, kind of more fleshed out, more DLC like kind of mods that offer like an expansive new experience to our favorite games. And I think by offering that paid incentive, we're going to see mods that are more polished, mods that have larger pools of voice actors, better animations, more fleshed out stories. And while these do exist anyway, I'm not saying that this is something that doesn't exist already. It affords the opportunity for it to exist on a much, much larger scale. And I think that's really, really important to remember if we are offering a system that kind of rewards people financially for producing these things. So now we've done some of the good points. I'm now going to talk a little bit about maybe more of the bad points, because I do, if I was to lean any kind of way, I do lean more negatively towards this, and that's purely because of my fears about where it could go as opposed to what it is. But I'll explain that in a little bit more depth as I run through each point. So my first negative point, I think this is probably the most obvious, is how it's going to be regulated. If this isn't regulated properly, we're going to be seeing shit mods asking for stupid fucking prices, or we're just going to see an influx of really, really bad mods just dominating the store that are attempts at quick cash-ins. And what I mean is, like, instead of something thoughtful like Frostfall, for an example, which is a fantastic mod available for Skyrim, we're going to see, like, you know, fucking low-effort bows from Zelda, or low effort like armor from Lord of the Rings that's put in for like $3.99, $4.99. And I think Bethesda really needs to kind of set the ground rules and go, this is the benchmark, this is what we expect, and this is how it's going to be priced at each stage, and we have to have a very strong say on what we think your content is worth, as opposed to just kind of creating a free-for-all environment that lets people do that. Now, there is suggestion that this is actually going to be the case. In fact, one of the reasons why I waited to do this video is since the announcement, Bethesda has actually come out and announced that they won't be basically letting pre-existing mods go onto the Creation Club as paid content. In fact, they want all their ideas to be 100% original, so it can't just be a rehash of something that was currently free that is now made into a paid thing. They've also said that they're going to have a certain standard where curators need to be invited into the Creator Club. So hopefully that means that we won't get an influx of shit coming in. But at the same time, this is all dependent on how well or not well that the Creation Club actually takes off. If Bethesda need to make the money, they need to make ends meet with this project, they are going to kind of start loosening up on their own requirements. And that obviously means allowing worse content coming in, so it could really go either way. Now, this one's a little bit of a joke, but at the same time I think there's quite a serious undertone to it. There's always been a joke that in Bethesda games, if it's broken, there's always been a joke that don't worry, the modders will fix it, because 9 times out of 10 modders will fix it. There's the unofficial Skyrim patch that addresses so many issues that's still present in the core game. And at the moment, the Creation Club presents itself a very, very fucking unique problem, which hasn't really existed before in the gaming community, and that is basically introducing games that have the same bugs through complacency, through neglect, and they rely on them to be fixed because they know they're going to receive a cut from the modders that fix it. Now, that obviously in itself sounds like a very, very, very stupid and outlandish idea, and there's no way Bethesda would do that. I think there's every chance they fucking would, to be honest. I'm not saying they're going to go out of their way to break their game, because that's obviously a different problem altogether. What I'm saying is they have little to no incentive to, you know, improve on fixing problems with their games that have been commonplace and well known. When they know that there's going to be a team of modders out there that are going to do it for them, that they then receive a cut of the profits on. I think that's a very, very real thing. That we actually have to consider happening, which is why I think it's completely valid bringing it up. Now, the next bad point, and I was a little bit on the fence about whether or not I'd include this until Rockstar or Take-Two pulled that action that they did with GTA 5. If you haven't heard about it, then go read about it on the internet, because that deserves a whole video in itself. So I've actually decided to include my next point, which is basically Bethesda changing their user agreements or end user agreements to effectively encompass that modding is only or the publishing of mods is currently only supported by official modders or modders that have been authorized to do so by Bethesda, and you're only authorized to do so if you're a creator in the Creation Club. At the moment, this doesn't exist, and at the moment, this kind of policy doesn't stand. However, it would not surprise me to know now that we've seen what happened with Take-Two trying to put a cease and desist against a bunch of closed source modders in Russia. We're now seeing that the gaming community and publishers are now kind of shifting very heavily and aggressively towards unauthorized modding. So I don't think, while it's something at the moment that may pose a serious problem, I can kind of see it maybe being a problem in the future by where modders who want to be free of that system and want to operate outside of it may legally, to whatever extent, not be entitled to do so as far as Bethesda is concerned. But again, that's not something I'm particularly worried about right now, but I do think it's something that we may have to entertain as a potential problem in the future. Now, my last bad point, and the reason why I'm bringing this up last, is because I think this is maybe where the potential danger lies. And while I say it's a bad problem, I think it could potentially be a good thing as well, but it really just depends on how it's implemented. But the problem being is if this works, which there's every chance that it might, then other developers and other platforms will fucking copy this. There's no fucking doubt about it. In fact, there is probably plans on the Steam platform for something very similar to this coming. They've already got the means and the capability of delivering. They have Steam Workshop. They just don't have the sort of financial business model in practice yet. But if this works, do not be surprised if we see Ubisoft doing something similar, if we don't see EA doing something similar, if we don't see other publishers, maybe even Blizzard doing something very similar with their add-ons, which are currently run through things like Minion or Curse. But again, we could end up seeing ourselves paying for add-ons. Could you imagine paying a monthly fee for fucking Recount or for like Deadly Boss mods or something like that? I mean, this is stuff that it obviously sounds very facetious. I'm trying to be like kind of carefree with what I'm saying, but it is something that could happen. If we were to talk about paid mods 5 years ago, people would have fucking laughed and gone, well, that's not going to happen because it's mods and they're done outside of any official remit and it's fair game. We're now looking at paid mods. And this is kind of the problem. This is where it falls on, because a couple of years ago, they introduced things like paid skins as DLC, things like new weapons or unlocks and things like that as paid content to games. Now, a lot of gamers my age or around my age or older will remember that once upon a time, you actually just fucking unlocked these things simply by playing the games on different difficulties or finding Easter eggs that unlock them, or simply by inputting cheat codes. Obviously, about 5-6 years ago, we got to the point where these things became pre-order incentives, or they became extra content that you could buy. And that was very, very heavily criticized at the time, and now it's just a given. We expect it. In fact, I've seen posts on the internet where people go, does anybody know what the pre-order bonuses will be for this game? People now want it because they've just either accepted it, or people who didn't know how it was before just deem it as the norm. And the problem is, I think myself and gamers in my age category and older, as I said, I think we need to accept that we are not the target demographic anymore, or at least we're not up there on the list of demographics that a lot of these companies are looking at, because at the end of the day, we're jaded, we're cynical, we know what we like, we've had years of having these things for free or have them delivered by different methods, and now they're looking at changing that. So instead of kind of targeting people my age, 5 years older or whatever, they're targeting people younger. They're targeting people who've only been playing games for like 5 years or so, or people that will start playing games 5 years ago. They're targeting people that haven't even started gaming yet, because instead they're just going to sit there and browse through the Creation Club and go, oh, fucking cool, I can buy like crab armor, that's sick, for $1.99, amazing. Whereas we knew, we experienced a time that was different, where obviously you didn't have to do that. So we're not their demographic anymore, and I think the reason why this failed 2 years ago when they did it is because they tried to introduce it to PC. And obviously we have Nexus there, we've had mods for a very, very long time, so we got very, very angry about it, and we rattled the cage quite a lot until Bethesda backed off. And they've been waiting, they've been biding their time, and they've now put it into the console arena. This is nothing against console players, but they haven't had mods to the same capacity that we have, and they haven't had the same delivery methods. They've now been given access to mods in a way that Bethesda, I noticed, didn't even mention the word mod when they actually advertise this thing, which is quite clever. And they've now got this other community to run it. So if the PC community kick up a fucking stink, they're going to go, okay, well that's nice because these guys want it, so it's happening. And that's just the way it's going to go. And we really need to remember at the end of the day that these companies aren't our friends. Bethesda have tried to do this for years. They've had like the whole Pip-Boy thing, which, you know, became a meme in itself and became like a friendly sort of like identifier that players had with that game. They're not your friends. It's the illusion of friendship. It's the illusion of companionship. They're a company. They want your money. And it's as simple as that. But I think this is a very, very interesting situation. I think it's a very interesting time to be there as a gamer, because this could go one of two ways. This could actually be something that's really, really good, that brings in fresh talent or incentivizes current talent to push and give so much more into that community, and then rewarding them for it as well, which I think is a fantastic idea. But at the same time, we are talking about corporate greed. We've seen it happen before with DLC, we've seen it happen before with pre-orders. We now, from Ubisoft's point of view, have like 6 fucking editions of a single game that come out on day one. And you know, you actually have to probably buy at least 3 of them to get the whole experience. It blows my mind. But I'm, of course, but one man, and this is just my opinion. As always, I'd love to know what you guys think. If you could let me know in the comments below. If you have enjoyed this, then remember to like and subscribe, and maybe check out some of the other shit that I produce on a weekly basis. But I'm Yanni Depp, and thanks very much for watching me. Over and out. So for the eagle-eyed among you, you may have noticed that I've got a new little mate sitting on my desk. That's the Dwarven Colossus from the new Elder Scrolls Online Morrowind's. Got that. Pretty good game, good expansion. It's not bad. Really excited when I got him out of the box, because as you can probably tell, he's quite a meaty little fucker. So his leg fell off though when I got him out of the box. Didn't even do anything to it. It wasn't even attached. So I had to glue that back on like some sort of fucking super glue wizard or something. It is all right. He stands now, so that's okay. But still, fucking Bethesda.